So we'll just do normal acceleration. Watch the GPS speedo here. Second, third, fourth, fifth. And just like that, we're at a comfortable cruising speed at a whopping 30 miles an hour. At 40, it starts buzzing pretty good. It's kind of screaming, so that's a 5-speed and a motocross bike. So from a standstill, you can actually open it up at the end of 4th gear, and that's it. So if I put it in the first, second, so if I start in 3rd, yep, it's much faster to do that. So I'll come back and do another video of acceleration runs once I have the wide ratio gearbox in it. But for now, yeah, definitely not a big fan of close ratio, but the rest of the bike is amazing. Well, this is my 2016 Husqvarna FC450 engine, which normally has a close ratio 5-speed gearbox in it. Just got done putting the 6th gear in it, and also added in the wide ratio 1st and 2nd gear, since I'm trying to make this be a do-it-all bike, so it gives me the gearing I need. I tried to make a video a second ago to prove I haven't tried to run it through the gears yet, and fought with it for about 5 minutes of the camera running. It turns out you have to kind of have the shifter pulled out for it to go through the gears if you're doing it on the bench here. So it's in 1st gear right now, and so it's all the way down in 1st. I got the shifter on backwards. So if I pull out on this, maybe that wasn't the trick. 2nd gear, there we go. Just gotta help it. Okay, 2nd gear is this outer gear set. You can see the dogs are engaged now. So it is in 2nd gear. If you wonder why there's so much slop in a gearbox on a dirt bike, that right there is why. And the reason for that is so when you're shifting through the gear, there's a higher chance that you'll be able to slide those dogs over into the gear. So that is 2nd gear right there. Now we'll go for 3rd. Hopefully it's easier. Okay, shift drum's turning. Make sure these are centered still. This might not be possible to make a video of. Well, so in the absence of being able to do this easily and quickly enough to make a video, you've got 2 gear sets. 1 gear on each side is keyed to the shaft. The other gear has teeth, dog teeth on it like this. And the shift drum down here rotates 1 click at a time. The shift star, which is on the other side of the case, is right here. And that shift star is what determines your detents. There's a spring at the bottom with a roller on it that sits in each of these to select the gear. When you turn the shift lever, it moves this arm and turns the shift drum, which is this piece. Well, and because I've got it all taken apart and everything's only supported on one side, it's all kind of floppy. So that's how the shifting mechanism works. There are 2, it's called shift rails in this engine. One of the shift rails is right here. The other one's right here. There are 3 shift forks, regardless of whether or not you have the 5 or 6 speed. There's 1 on the input primary shaft. There's 2 on the counter shaft on this one. 1st gear is actually a part of the shaft on the input primary shaft. So if you want the low ratio 1st gear, you have to buy the whole shaft. Of course, the drum is also different between the 5 and 6 speeds, but the shift star is actually the same. Okay, now we'll fight with it a little bit more, because I do need to prove to myself that I actually have all the gears before I put this thing back together. That's my only way to know that I didn't put it back together wrong. So hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this shift rail out, and it has springs in it, and these springs keep the shift rail centered in the gearbox. I'm going to put it in without the springs, and what that's going to do is let me slide this all the way into the case on the back side so it's nice and stable relatively. And I'm going to do the same thing up here with the primary shift rail. So those shift rails are now much more stable and supported by the cases. So if I try to shift up again, I think the first thing that happens based on the timing of the shift drum is first gear pops back and third gear down here pops forward. So there's actually a timing associated with the gearing, and that's why you can actually manually upshift and downshift. There's a spot, and this is why you can miss a shift too. There's a spot in between each gear where these forks have no gears selected. And with no gear selected, you're effectively in a neutral position. Now, the shift star means the drum is always going to flip one way or the other. That's why the star has points on it without flats. The spring-loaded roller rolls up one side, crosses the point, and flips it into the next gear. So there's a brief instant of neutral, and that's what lets you shift in a constantly synchronized gearbox like this. So when I'm trying to fight this thing on the bench, I'm trying to get it to pop out of second gear and then into third gear. If I turn this and give it a little bit of rotation, and really I need a way to, there we go, that's third gear. So the reason you can't shift the bike when it is not moving and you're trying to use a clutch or something to creep, try to pop it into the next gear if you're sitting still, the reason it can't move is because it requires rotation on the shaft to be able to get these dogs to line up. If you're in a position like, take that for example, if you're in a position where the dog lines up with the gap in the gear, you can't move that dog over. So it has to be in a position like this. So if I'm trying to go back to second, I won't be able to until it rotates to there. So that's why you can't always just click up and down when you're not moving. So now I'm in third gear. If I move the input shaft, you can see I've got a little bit more shaft speed there. Let's see if we can figure out which gear set it is. It's this gear set, it's third gear. So that one's engaged. And then let's see if we can get fourth gear quickly. Boom. Fourth gear, just like that. So now you can see this is turning a little bit faster for my admittedly inconsistent input shaft speed. I believe fourth gear is this gear set. Let's see. This gear is splined to the shaft. Ah, there we go. It just popped into fourth. So it's got some spring-loaded action on it that wasn't quite there yet. Yeah, this is the fourth gear set right here. So fourth gear works. We'll try fifth. Boom, pops up into fifth gear. Now it's all going very well. Now that I've got the shift shafts lined up, or the shift rails lined up, and I'm remembering to pull out on the shift lever. Again, all this stuff floats around when it doesn't have the other case on it, which has some guide features. So with fifth gear engaged, is that fifth gear? Second gear set looks similarly speeded at the moment. Oh yeah, this is turning nice and fast though. And then sixth gear should be the last one. And sixth gear is a gear set that I just added, which is this gear set right here. There we go. That was sixth gear. So it wasn't quite there yet, but you can see, maybe, see if the camera can show that. See, these dogs are engaged. I can't move those gears separate. So sixth gear is actually a pretty good example where you can see the output shaft is turning in time with this one. This gear is engaged with the dog clutch. The other gears, some of them are Well, the shafts are tied together, so it doesn't really work in a way that should. Oh, that doesn't look right. I think I put something back together wrong. I have gear overlap, and that's not a good thing. Actually, that's okay. So, interesting thing I just realized about this gearbox. So right now, it's in 6th gear. So you've got the second, this is 2nd gear. The outermost gear is 2nd gear, I think. This is 6th gear right here. 6th gear is engaged. These gears look like they overlap, so I've got teeth that are offset, and that initially looked really bad. Well, every set of gears has one set that's tied to the shaft, one set that's got a bearing in it. These 2 gears are on a bearing. These 2 gears are actually tied to each other and to the shaft. So right now, the splines on the 3/4 gear set are actually driving 6th gear to this side, to the output. And the 3/4 gear, with gears 3 and 4 here, are floating on this shaft. So even though they're all turning and they look like they're at a similar speed, it's just this gear driving 6th gear, driving the output. And you can see how close that is. If you had a bearing fail and you could not get the thing to go into 6th gear, if you had a 6-speed bike, now this is the FE450 transmission, so the 501 and 500 are the same. The reason the edge of these teeth are tapered on this gear and this gear, they go right past each other, so they don't hit. It's awfully tight tolerances. It's no wonder this is such a tiny, compact engine. Quite frankly, I'm blown away by the engineering. So if I try to go up past 6, there's nothing. So I'm pretty confident I've got it installed correctly now. I've been through all the gears. So I'm going to click back down and see if you can see from the top what happens. And in order to make it actually shift right, I'm going to drive it from the wrong direction. I'm going to drive it from the output shaft side, because it seems to help get the gears a little more positively. So I'm turning this. You can see that gear shifts over. Crap, I also have to pull out on this. There's a lot going on here. Okay, 3/4 gear set slides over. Now I'm in 5th gear. 5th gear is hidden at the moment. It's back here. Okay, I'm going to drop it down into 4th gear. This slides over, and now we're in 4th gear, which I want to say is, it's this gear because there's dogs on the back side of this. So this is the 4th gear set. Drop it down into 3rd gear. You can see the dogs now that I'm pulling back. It's not quite there. Okay, just click down into 3rd. And then we'll click down into 2nd. And the 2nd gear set is this outer one. So you'll see this guy move that way. Boom. We're now in 2nd gear. And then 1st gear you can't see, it's the furthest back in the case, but you'll see this retract. So, okay, it retracted. Now I'm in 1st gear. Can't go down any further. Let's see if we can get it into neutral. Ugh, okay, now we're back in neutral. And yeah, that's how a gearbox on a dirt bike works, specifically the 2016 plus KTM 450s. So, hope that's somewhat explanatory. It's a pretty amazing system. The inside of these engines is quite frankly amazing. It's no wonder they're so light. This engine had 125-ish hours on it when I took it apart. Amazing shape on the inside. It mostly looks brand new. The FE 1st and 2nd gear, which is a lower 1st and 2nd, and then I've got the motocross 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then I have the street bike 6th gear as well. Clutch drag's a little, not super warm yet. 2nd, 3rd, and already I'm going about as fast as I would have been, you know, at a relatively comfortable RPM with the FC gearbox. wheels aren't balanced, so it's a little bouncy. Starting in first gear. And a second gear start.